I'm on to problem 6. Once again, I will ask that you keep your pens down while you are watching the video so that you are not tempted to copy. You will learn much better if you are trying to work on this on your own. If you're simply writing it down, you will not benefit from the video, as I hope that you will. The goal of this proof is to show that O is in the middle. It's the midpoint of QR, which is this side coming straight down. I'm sorry, not straight down, coming at an angle here. One thing I want to clarify in this video, it's given here that O is in the middle of PS, which is the straight up and down one. Many students will say to me, if O is in the middle of PS, isn't it obvious that if O is the midpoint, it should also have to be the midpoint of this one too? So if O is the midpoint of one of these sides, doesn't it have to be the midpoint of this? Which is entirely unreasonable. I can, if I want, draw a side here, P, draw this as O, S is going to be down here. And I can clearly draw another line where it's very obvious that it is not the midpoint of QR, but it can still be the midpoint of PS. So it's possible that these two things are the same, whereas these pieces are not the same as one another. So PO can be the same as OS even if QO is not the same as OR. So the fact that it gives me that O is in the middle of PS does not simply say that O also has to be in the middle of QR. Because O is in the middle of one is not a good enough reason to say it has to be in the middle of the other one. That is not a reasonable explanation for why O is in the middle of Q and R. So instead of doing that, we are going to choose to start by proving the triangles are the same. That will allow me to show the pieces are the same through CPCTC, and then I will be able to end with the statement that O is in the middle of QR, having actually proven it in a reasonable way. I will start with my first given, that angle P is the same as angle S. Students will often ask me when they can use one letter for an angle versus three, and the answer is you can use one letter so long as there is only one angle drawn here. There is no confusion about which angle S is because there is only an angle here at S. At R, that's the same thing. There is only one angle at R. If you look at O, however, if you said angle O, I do not know if you're talking about this one, or if you're talking about that one, or even if you're talking about one of these two. There are 4 angles at O that I could be speaking of, so you must use 3 letters if you're naming one of these angles here. If you're looking at something like P and S where there's only one angle to speak of, you can choose to use the single letter, which they chose to do in this proof, and I am fine with that. Our first given was that angle P was the same as angle S. The next given was that O is the midpoint of PS. Many students at this point will come over here and mark this as true and then move on in the proof. However, you will notice that there is nothing in step 2 that says that side PO is the same length as side OS. That is the logical conclusion from O being a midpoint, that these two pieces are the same, but you must state it. You cannot simply draw it in the picture without having stated it. So at this point, I must say that PO is the same as OS if I want to put it in the picture. This is the definition of a midpoint, that the two pieces are the same. At this point, I have a side and an angle that are congruent in both triangles. I am one step away from being able to prove the triangles are congruent. I'm going to choose to highlight or to mark the vertical angles as being the same. Once again, I must use 3 letters because there are multiple angles at point O. The one on the bottom I'm going to call angle SOR, with the O being in the middle. The one on the top I will choose to call angle POQ. I would emphasize again that you must use the angle symbol when you are speaking of angles. You should use the triangle symbol when you are speaking of triangles. If you do not put that symbol and you just put 3 letters, it is meaningless. must use the symbol to show what you are talking about. These two angles are the same because they are vertical angles. At this point, I have angle, side, angle with the side connecting the two angles. So I have enough to say that the triangles are the same as one another. I can say triangle, and notice the symbol is much different than this symbol here. Triangle SOR is congruent to, and now I need to go in order. Angle S on the bottom goes with angle P on the top. So P is going to go first because S went first. O on the bottom goes with O on the top, and R on the bottom goes with Q on the top. That is true by angle, side, angle. At this point, I'm going to check to see if I have completed all of the congruent statements in my proof. The first angle I marked was that P and S were the same, which is written in my proof in step 1. The side that I said was congruent was PO and OS. That is in my proof in step 3. The final angle is that SOR is the same as POQ. It is in step 4. I have included it in my proof. So far, I have proven the triangles are congruent. I have 2 more things to do. Show the pieces are the same with CPCTC, and then I will end with the statement. The goal of this proof is to show that O is in the middle of QR. If O is in the middle of QR, that means that these 2 pieces are the same. So I'm trying to find, do I have any reason to say that OR is the same as OQ? And if I look at my triangle congruence statement, OR is the last 2 things here, OQ is the last 2 things here. They go together. Therefore, if the triangles are the same, the pieces will be the same too. That is what CPCTC means. So I can say that OR is the same as OQ. Notice I did not say this is true because it's a midpoint, because thus far in my proof, I do not know, I have never stated that O is in the middle of QR. So I have to have a different reason besides the midpoint to show that this is true. In this case, and in most every case, that reason will be CPCTC. At this point, I've proven that these 2 pieces are the same, and if RO is the same as OQ, then it follows logically that O is in the midpoint, so I can end with my statement that O is in the midpoint of RQ. And this is by the definition of midpoint, that the 2 pieces are the same.